Tony D and Little Joan with Screenwriters Rant on Quantum Leap 2022. Now they're saying drama sci-fi movie. It's a TV show, isn't it? I don't know. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy horror in South Jersey. It's the Pineys, books 1 through 9, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. So Ernie Hudson's in this, Ghostbuster, and maybe this is the movie that launches the show. Set 30 years after Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap Accelerator and vanished, follows a new team that must restart the project, hoping to understand the mysteries behind the machine and its creator. Oh, well, okay. I like that. I like that concept. So this isn't a reboot. This is a sequel. I like that. Now, that being said, I'm not so sure I like the series in general. I do like that they're continuing it as opposed to, just maybe they could bring back Scott Bakula for a cameo or whatever. I don't know. The ending of Quantum Leap, it was one of those shows. I kind of like some of it. An individual episode might be cool, but ultimately the whole concept never quite rang true. And this is supposed to be 85. Yeah, I guess we had telephone booths that looked like that. That looks even older than 85. By 85, I think they were modernizing it. This looks like very much the Universal set. And of course, he leaps right into a bank robber getaway driver. So he's got to do that and avoid the cops. And this woman is playing the assistant, and she explains the whole concept of the show. But of course, she's in love with him, and he's got to help all these people for some reason. And then here he gets, hit by various things. So it's very action oriented. And then Ernie Hudson's the guy who says, "Get him out of there! You're going over budget." Basically relegated to the police sergeant role, I guess, or police captain role. I don't know. It looks very action oriented, and at the same time, they're still trying to do the funny stuff. It's going to be on Peacock. I don't know, man. Look, so like the first show with Scott Bakula, it was kind of fun, kind of funny, and then even then it got too serious for me. I stopped watching it after a while because it just got too serious. Like initially it was kind of fun, and I did like some of the individual episodes, and I kind of watched it off and on. But then when they ended it, like, I don't know, Sam was an angel, I guess, and it had nothing to do with the machine, which I thought was sort of a bit of a cop out. Now they're trying to do it again. I'll hand it to them that at least they're trying to do it as a sequel. That to me is much cooler than trying to do a prequel or trying to do a reboot. A reboot would have been terrible, because you would have had all this race swapping and gender swapping going on. So I'm not knocking it for that. It just, I don't know if it was a strong premise to begin with. And I love time travel, but is this really time travel? And then you get into the same problems I always talk about, which is, if you can change the past and then it changes the future, couldn't it change it enough that he's no longer the guy, or he's dead, or that he would not have a need to go back in time to change the past. Like this whole idea of changing history, it kind of doesn't work on a scientific basis, which I guess is why the original show ended the way it did. And I like the idea of it. It's just tough to pull off. This show looks very serious and very dramatic. And I mean, they call it drama sci-fi. I think, though, for a drama sci-fi, you really need the sci-fi part has to be rooted in a pretty good reality. See, the thing about the original Star Trek was, number one, it was set so far into the future, you could say, well, it could work maybe. And some of the, the transporter being like the most fantastic of elements, you could say, well, it could work because, based on the technology they had then, they were sort of projecting it into the future kind of thing. This kind of isn't really doing that, and it's taken a previous concept. And even the original concept, I don't know if they've really explored it all that much, in terms of the actual scientific basis of it. The only thing I could think of prior to Quantum Leap, which was similar, was a famous French film called La Jetée, where the character, he basically takes a bunch of drugs which allows him to go back in time. It's kind of similar, although he's not inhabiting people's bodies, but it's sort of a similar concept. So to me, the part of this is like the part that they sort of glom over with a concept like this is the science. Like, yeah, he time travels somehow and gets into people's bodies and has to save them, but forget about how that works. We got to save people, right? It's sort of that rush to get to the drama, and that to me undermines the whole thing because it's so fantastic that the futuristic aspect of it doesn't really ring true. Like if this took place in, if the main character Ben, if he was placed in the year 2400, then you could say, well, maybe they have the technology, and then you could speculate on what technology we have now could possibly do this, right? Maybe there would be something. I don't know. You could tie it into genetics somehow, right? You could say, well, you can tap into someone's genetic code in the past and actually take their synapses, not their body, but their brain, and their synapses goes back in time. My ending for Quantum Leap would have been, the original show would have been that instead of revealing that Sam was an angel, that you would reveal that it wasn't Sam at all. Sam was the entire time back in the present, and really it was the AI who thought it was Sam. But the AI, in doing all these leaps or whatever, has become sentient. And now there's no reason to go back to the present for the AI because he's become human, and then you could have the same ending where it just goes on to continue to help people, and that could have wrapped it up a little better. It would have made, to me, more scientific sense that they would send the AI first, but and again, you could say, well, in the future, the AIs are so sophisticated, they were almost human, and we're sort of getting into that. With this, I don't know if the science part, it's supposed to take place in 2022. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can suspend my disbelief enough for this technology, this time-traveling technology that can change the past. And then, the idea that you could change the past. Like, maybe you could do a thing where they change the past, but it's just in small ways. It doesn't change history, but it changes it in small ways for, people who don't change history, but their lives are improved. Or you could, and the other thing too is if you, I don't remember that it was tied into 2022. Even if it was, that was still kind of a ways away when the show, you know, was, I forget the year. Maybe it was. I don't remember. But 2022 is kind of close, right, to the timeline he's jumping in. And part of it too was initially Sam could only go back so far. I forget what the limitation was. There was a limitation initially, and then they started playing around with that. They can only go back in time in the lifetimes of either Sam or certain people. And then they did one where Sam leaps into a kid who's mentally handicapped, and that was their big Emmy one. That's when I started to go, okay. So I don't know. Looks like they spent some money, but that they're using the Universal set is kind of weird. Kind of feels cheap in its own way. That's definitely the Universal set, I think. Because everything feels very old, but feels older than 1985 in that scene. I don't know. And then you got a romance between her and him, and that seems like unnecessary. I don't know if that's going to be, I mean, that makes it different, and they keep cutting back to the present, but he ends up like piloting the space shuttle. That's definitely a big thing in history. I mean, maybe if you deal with alternate history, maybe if you change things on the other end, that would be cool. Like, I'd enjoy that, right? So, like, he changes history. Maybe during the episode he changes history for the worse, and then he has to make it better, or else they're in big trouble. And then he changes history, and it's for the better, and they go back to normal, that kind of thing. That, to me, would raise the stakes. But it would be very complicated. I don't know. I mean, the lead's good. The actors are good. It's on NBC, so... It says NBC's YouTube. What is NBC's YouTube? I guess they have a YouTube channel. They're just going to play clips of it. I assume they won't play the whole show unless you somehow pay for it. Here's the synopsis. Set 30 years after Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap Accelerator. I guess he did that in 92? He vanished, and a new team must restart the project, hoping to understand the mysteries behind the machine and its creator. Yeah, see, that to me is a weak premise. Understanding the machine. It's a machine. Just take it apart and see how he built it. Read the instructions. Read his notes. I mean, it's not that hard. So, I don't know. Would I watch it? I don't have TV anymore. It feels very TV. I'd probably watch an episode or two to sit and give it a chance. It doesn't look awful. I'm kind of on the fence about it. It's a little too melodramatic. This was a complaint Harlan Ellison had of the original Star Trek, was that Roddenberry would insert the melodrama into his TV teleplay, and he didn't want that melodrama, artificial melodrama. And he had a point, even though the episode that they eventually produced of Harlan's is still really, really good, but it is an hour show and self-contained, so you got to give people some entertainment. I mean, even if we go back to the old school television that is a little forced, I think that would be an improvement at this point on television, because television is such a... I mean, they're not lecturing people. It doesn't appear to be woke, or... I mean, I think there's a non-binary character in the team, but they're not even emphasizing that in this trailer, so that's a good sign. You know, she's just non-binary or trans or whatever, but she's not. That's not the focus of the show. So that's an improvement. So maybe it'll be decent. I don't know. If I had TV, I'd probably give it a episode or two, see if I could get into it. But, I mean, could be worse. Again, I think it's a good move to do a sequel because at least you can add. You can add to the mythos of the show, and maybe you can fix its shortcomings. When you do like a prequel, you really can't do that. When you do a reboot, like who cares, in my view. So, not bad, NBC. Maybe you're heading back towards entertainment that people could actually get behind. So we'll see. We'll see when the reviews start leaking out and if the nerds start complaining about it. I haven't heard them complain about it yet. And some of these nerds get a hold of the early clips or whatever, and they go nuts like they did with Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. But it looks like House of the Dragon's decent, and Rings of Power not so much. This is, I think, kind of somewhere in between. I think it'll be standard. The real test will be if it doesn't get enough of a fan base, will the show desperately try to do something to get you to do something to get you to watch it, and what will they do will be the key. Or will it be of high enough quality that people will drift back into it and say, yes, this is good, and start talking about it. You know, it doesn't look that good from this trailer. It looks okay though. It looks watchable. Maybe it could get that good. All right, I wish him well. Quantum Leap. Do we have a date on this thing? I think we did. September 19th. Oh, it's today. So tonight, watch Quantum Leap, I guess. Let me know if it's any good in the comments. Again, my call is it's probably watchable. It's probably okay. And that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. We got a Hollywoke hot take and a news blast coming up. And we'll see you in the next one.